Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today is January 30th, 2025, and we have me and Derek here have a stream about the big news from yesterday. And Derek, go ahead and give us a few words. Make sure you're coming through.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? It's January 30th, 2025, doing a simulcast on both the Decoding with Kodi and Gematrinator 85 YouTube channels.
Yep. And guys, make sure you guys give us that thumbs up in my chat. Make sure you can hear both of us. Sounds good. And me and Derek are going to kind of bounce back and forth here. Derek's a bit under the weather, so we're just going to bounce back and forth. And yeah, we got a lot of things to talk about. We're going to start off with Derek talking a bit about um, Sean Duffy, the new transportation head, and why he just got sworn in a day before this, which what a coincidence that is. And then we're going to talk a lot about um, the Mercury stuff that me and Derek have talked about on multiple streams that have been about plane crashes. I mean, I think we've done at least 3 or 4 of these now. Um, that I think a lot of our streams have been about plane crashes, haven't they? The ones we've done
Especially over the
together.
last month, yeah.
Yeah. So again, if you guys haven't been watching our channels, then you guys have missed the fact that we've been talking about these plane crashes over and over and over again. And we'll let Derek show you here. I mean, I think he's got the
Well, yeah, I just wanted to recap. This started back on December 19th. We had a small single jet plane crash into the home of a Buffalo Bills player or onto his property, and this sparked off a series of airline incidents, with the big one being the December 29th Jeju air crash. Kodi and I did a live stream on that. And now that Trump has taken office, after slicing his airplane cake with the machete, now we have an incident, coincidentally enough, in Washington, D.C. So, no huge surprises here. For years, we've been seeing incidents where we've had near misses between various aircraft, and finally, it's unfortunately happened with sounds like 67 people killed in this midair collision. And what I wanted to focus on to start is the fact that this crash occurred during the first full day in office for the new Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. And Duffy, a former reality television star from my home state of Wisconsin, sworn in on January 28th, and this crash unfolding about 24 hours later on January 29th. So we've seen a lot of Sean Duffy on television since this happened. And he wasn't the only one who was undergoing confirmation hearings this week, as we also had RFK Jr. standing in front of Congress yesterday for his first round of hearings. Now, I did a video on Sean Duffy and how he's connected to the Skull and Bones Code back when he was first nominated by Donald Trump a couple of months ago. And Sean Duffy, his middle name is Patrick, which connects him to actor Patrick Duffy. Not really going to dive too deep into that for the sake of this video,
Patrick
but
Mahomes.
from the date that he was nominated as the Transportation Secretary on 11/19, November 19th, to the date of the airplane crash, January 29th, was 71 days later. And this is a number Sean Patrick Duffy has in reduction gematria. The phrase airplane crash, also 71. And remember, Donald Trump has the big 71 in his number in the satanic method. And it's worth mentioning that when Trump took office, he had the 710 in his age. So 71 days after the nomination, we get a plane crash. And this guy, Sean Duffy, was also born in the year 71. You know what I just realized, too, saying this out loud, is that this guy starred on The Real World Boston. And in this aircraft, uh, there were several members of the Skating Club of Boston that were on board the flight. So, U.S. figure skating championships competitors dying in this collision, and a lot of them were from Boston. And Sean Duffy, real world Boston, there you go. The designation of the airline, the plane was CRJ 701 as well. Now, this measurement is also 72 days with the end date. Robert F. Kennedy has the double 72, but this is also the ordinal gematria of Black Hawk, as it was a Black Hawk military helicopter that this jet collided with. And how interesting that Transportation Secretary has this special 314 gematria that we've been talking about for months. Of course, we have this big eclipse coming up on Pi Day, or 314, in a couple of months. 314, also the reverse gematria of Robert Francis Kennedy. And when you look up the Black Hawk helicopter, you realize it was first flown just a couple of years after Sean Duffy was born. In fact, it was 3 years and 14 days after his birth that this helicopter was first launched. So as we go, we'll also look at a riddle connecting this to the famous film Black Hawk Down from 2001. I know Kodi also has some other information that we'll be sharing on Air Force One Down, which was another movie about an airplane incident that was released last year. So this crash fell 44 days before the Pi Day eclipse. Of course, 44, an important number. The word kill equals 44 in the alphabetic order. But remember, Sean Duffy is from Wisconsin, which equals 44. And Wisconsin has matching 125 gematria with airplane crash, with U.S. Department of Transportation, and Transportation Secretary, all 125. Another really important element to this riddle is that the plane was flying in from Wichita, and Wichita sums to 44 in gematria as well. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Kodi, but I'm going to get into the Skull and Bones code next. All right, so this American Airlines passenger jet that went down was operating under the American Eagle banner. And this phrase, American Eagle, using the triangular number cipher, sums to this special number, 572. Followers of my channel are hopefully familiar with this number by now, because 572 is the Latin value of skull and bones. We also find the 572 in U.S. Department of Transportation, which is 1,572. And this new character leading the U.S. DOT, his name Sean Duffy, equals 752, which is the standard gematria of skull and bones. Same 3 digits, slightly flipped around, but we see a very strong element with this. Of course, Washington, D.C. is home to the 202 dialing code. Skull and Bones equals 202, like the Brotherhood of Death 220, a number also found in Duffy's birth numerology. The name Duffy on its own in this Latin method sums to 616, just like ritual sacrifice. And the date 616, or June 16th, is the date that Reagan National Airport first opened, all the way back in 1941, of course, the same year as the Pearl Harbor attacks, which involved many, many airplanes. But just think about the odds of this, right? Now, again, just a few months after 9/11, the film Black Hawk Down came out. And I want you to look at Sean Duffy's age when Black Hawk Down hit theaters internationally. He was 11,066 days old. Well, that stands out because he was born 11,066 days after Reagan Airport first opened on that special 6/16 date, which is found in his Gematria. This is also found in the flight number. Flight 5342 was the plane that crashed. When you write out flight 5342, it sums to 1166. It also equals 322, which is obviously the major skull and bones number, as it's the number they implanted on their emblem. And we see a lot of these digits, right? Black Hawk Down is 223, matching the skull and crossbones. Reagan Airport was 22,003 days old for the 9/11 attacks, which I'll talk about a little bit more. But the 223 is also the gematria of the moon in ancient Hebrew, as this is the number of synodic months in the Saros cycle. Ronald Reagan was the 223rd prime number of lunar phases old for this crash. And this is significant because 1409, the 223rd prime, this is like the gematria of skull and bones, 149. So the last thing I have before I'll pitch it back to you, Kodi, is this special Yale anniversary. Back in the year 2023, Yale University turned 322 years old on October 9th of that year. And this plane crash has a significant connection to that date because it's 1 year and 16 weeks from that big anniversary to the plane crash. And how often do we talk about this 116? Because it's an upside down 9/11. The name Reagan is 116. The flight was coming in from Wichita, 116. Duffy, 1016. Robert Francis Kennedy, 116. And wouldn't you believe, Sean Duffy was 119 days after his birthday for this incident. 119, reminding us of the date of the September 11th attacks. Also, Ronald Reagan, who was born in the year 1911. Again, this crash at an airport now named after him. Reagan lived for 1,119 months, matching Transportation Secretary, 1119. And the man that Sean Duffy replaced, Pete Buttigieg, well, he was born on January 19th, or 119. And now Sean Duffy comes in, and Sean Duffy is 10 years, 109 days older than the last Transportation Secretary. So this is definitely a huge riddle for Sean Duffy. And again, if you're watching on my channel, in the links in the description below, I linked to the video I made back in November about Sean Duffy and this skull and bones code. And what do you know? His first day in office, we get the first major airline crash in the United States since 2001. Now, there's been a handful of incidents that have resulted in deaths, the biggest one being the Colgan Air crash of 2009. But this is the first time a signature American airliner, such as American Airlines, has had a fatality on board since the year of the 9/11 attacks. So it's a pretty big one, a lot lining up. And I do have more on the planet Mercury that goes into this, as this will bring me into the John Madden part of the riddle. But before I get there, Kodi, I think I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, because and I think that it's a good you kinda left off there with the 9/11 riddle, and I think it's a very important point to point out, guys, that Remember, Pearl Harbor was in a snake.
So I believe we're losing your audio intermittently here, Cody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you again now, yeah.
I don't know. Something's
Ooh. Well, I might be a little bit under the weather, but it sounds like it's Cody's technology that is sick on his end.
okay. So what about now?
Now I can hear you once more.
Okay. So it's important to point out, as I was trying to say, that the considering that Derek just left off with the 9/11 stuff, 9/11 was in a snake year. Planes hitting towers in a snake year. Pearl Harbor was also in a snake year. And now, at the beginning of this snake year, we have a plane incident. And it just seems to speak to, people have talked about another 9/11. Well, is this signaling something again this year? Or is this just kind of a ritual to kind of go with it? But I mean, as Derek was saying, there's a lot of connections with this new transportation secretary and the 9/11 and the Skull and Bones. Remember how important Skull and Bones was with George Bush and 9/11. So that's kind of where I lead into, you know, the snake years and how important the snake symbolism really is here. And just overall in general, both to Mercury, which is the god of transportation, and also to the Bible, which, as you guys can see here, we're looking at Revelation 12:9. And of course, this incident happened on the date 129. So this is a verse that goes with the date of this crash. And just look at what the verse says. And the great dragon was cast out. So think about it. We just left the dragon year. It was cast away, right? And now the serpent enters. So it kind of says the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, and he was cast out into the earth. So he falls, right? Planes falling to the earth. And again, we're going to talk about why the snake year seems to align with these type of incidents. And 9/11 again was no different. It happened in that snake year. And one thing, just to start off with a few obvious things before I even get into this, the word collide. You're seeing a collision or collide a lot. The word collide equals 129. This happened on 129, again, like the verse about the old serpent. Um, also, I noticed that plane helicopter collision, if you type that phrase in, it also equals 129.
Another 129, Cody, is that Black Hawk Down came out 129 days after the September 11th attacks.
Ah, yeah. Ah, okay. Well, that's gonna tie in with the 201 too, because 129 is 201 in base 8, and that I kind of connect that in a little bit more with the serpent thing. So, well, that goes perfect with that then. Um, but yeah, and then this one, I know everyone wants to hear something about this. I know how people in the chat saying I want to hear about the 33. Well, we know how they love the 33. That's just the kind of on the surface stuff that most anyone can see. And they said this plane was going to land at runway 33. And I noticed that the call sign for this plane was Blue Streak. And Blue Streak happens to have double 33 gematria in both your reduction and your old reliable cipher that I love, the Chaldean, also has the 33. And notice that that's in the same cipher as the word collision. And also notice that the word collide equals 33. They said this was going to land at runway 33. And thanks to Joseph Aquaviva, who I think is in the chat, he found that it was 137 days before Trump's birthday, which is the 33rd prime, and Washington, D.C. equals 137. So a lot of 33s, runway 33, and Blue Streak is the name of the call sign.
Yeah,
So yeah, there.
I got more 33s later too. This will tie into the John Madden part of the riddle, as he died 3 years, 33 days before this crash. And of
Okay.
course, runway 33 is also important to NASA. They have runway 1533 at Kennedy Space Center. We had confirmation hearings for a Kennedy on the same day.
Right. Yeah. I just saw the first thing I saw this morning when I opened it up was people talking about the runway. That was like the surface level truthers are all over that one. But
Exactly.
um I thought I'd give them a little throw them a little bone here with the 33s. And so but this is what really got me. I want you guys to see almost like, okay, if I would have looked a little closer into this, I could have said, yeah, I mean, maybe I could have pinpointed something. And to be honest, Casey Jones astrology, he was already kind of pinpointing the day before for some sort of event possibly happening. But it's just pretty crazy because Trump was 9 days or a span of 10 days. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Before the crash, he was literally cutting a cake with a plane on it with his wife standing behind him looking like she's wearing a snake. So, I mean, and he's cutting it with a sword, a military sword. And what crashed into the plane, guys? A military aircraft, a military sword cuts through the plane. Do you guys get it? It's clear symbolism. Like military aircraft, the sword cuts through the plane while his wife is wearing a snake gown. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. I don't know if I'm tripping here or not, but that looks like as close as you can get to wearing a snake on your dress. So, Trump, and then here's, of course, you got both people here, both the presidents here, and just the snake symbolism. But another thing I saw clearly was point out was that they really love the 60 here. They said it was a Sikorsky VH-60 Black Hawk. There's your 60, and they said there was 60 passengers on the plane. And why is the 60 important? Because the word collide also equals 60, like Donald Trump. And we just had where he was at his inauguration, 9 days ago, had the 60th inauguration. And Donald Trump equals 60, like inauguration. Uh, Joseph in the chat is saying figure skaters equals 60. I forgot that one. Yes, that's a good point. I didn't get the figure skaters into this decode, but I think I'm going to kind of go at the end and talk about that because I think the figure skaters again connects to the snake. Think about it. What do figure skaters do? They make figure eights. They make what you could say is kind of snake moves, snake symbols on the ice, right? So I think that's a big part of this. But let's just jump into the snake thing. Remember, I did a decode back in about the year of the snake, like 2 months ago. And I told you guys that this date, the 29th, I talked about it thoroughly, is going to be interesting because it lines up perfectly in many ways with the snake poem that Donald Trump read. And as you guys can see, this was the 29th day of the year. Donald Trump he read the lyrics from The Snake. Again, you have to put the in there because that's the name of the poem and the lyrics is The Snake, not just snake. So that equals 29. Like it's the 29th day of the year. The snake year starts. And Trump has that 29. And then I started realizing that this was all connected with the 29 because not only does Trump equal 29, like this happened on the 29th day of the year, and Trump was using a sword to cut his airplane cake, which also equals 29. This was a span of 10 days before this collision. And what is the number 10? Well, 29 is the 10th prime. So kind of you get a 29 span, 10 connects to the number 29. So you got Trump and sword, and this happens, you know, on the 29th day of the year, just like the snake equals 29. And then you started, I remembered that I had just did a decode of a month, and like Derek said, we just did decodes on plane incidents so many times this in the last 2 months. And I had just did a decode on a movie called Air Force One Down that was released on 2/9 last year, which is the same date the Super Bowl is this year. And this, of course, connects perfectly to the Super Bowl. Where was the flight coming from? Well, it was coming from Wichita, Kansas, and we have the Kansas City Chiefs in the upcoming Super Bowl. Of course, I know that Kansas City isn't really in Missouri, but we're talking about Kansas here. So in Kansas, and then you had the plane called the Eagle. So you had the Eagle and the Kansas. And that's the matchup we have in the Super Bowl on 2/9. So that means that Air Force One Down was released exactly a year before the Super Bowl on 2/9, like the snake. Like this crash was all about the Potomac, which equals 29. And this connects us to football, which equals 29, like the star quarterback of the upcoming Super Bowl, Mahomes, looking to get his third Super Bowl. And there was 3 passengers on the helicopter, supposedly. So, and there was the 33 stuff. And remember, last year in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes had all the 33 stuff. So again, this 29 just seemed to be big. And then you think about what was it with Kobe? Because we just had Kobe's helicopter crash death anniversary 3 days before this. And I just told you there was 3 people on the helicopter that went down, and the whole thing with Patrick Mahomes. And don't forget, the Super Bowl this year is featuring Philadelphia. Kobe is from Philadelphia. He likes the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's the snake. So not only do you have the Philadelphia connection, he was the Black Mamba. And I started thinking about how the word black also ties to the number 29. Now, this is where it gets interesting because this could also be pointing to some more blackout symbolism. Remember, in 2013 in New Orleans, which is where the Super Bowl in a few days is going to be, there was a blackout at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Well, the word black equals 29. We're talking about Black Mamba, Kobe, right? The Black Mamba, the blackout. So I'll just read what I wrote here. Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles is being played in the same stadium as the Blackout Bowl. The collision involved a Black Hawk and was 3 days after the anniversary of Black Mamba, Kobe's helicopter crash. So they were emphasizing all these blacks, and I just wanted to point out that to go with all the other 29s I already mentioned, the word black equals 29, like the snake and, Kobe the Black Mamba. But this brings us to the Mercury connection, which is my favorite part of the decode because, and thanks again to Casey Jones Astrology for leading us to this well in advance and continuing to this. This is the gift that keeps on giving with the Mercury.
Yeah, huge shout
And
out to Casey. And if you don't mind me sharing one quick thing, Cody, uh,
yeah, go ahead.
when Kobe Bryant died, it was on his mercurial birthday.
Yeah,
Every
yeah, yeah.
88 days. And what I wanted to point out about that is that he was exactly 172 mercurial orbits.
Kansas City Chiefs, right?
That's the ordinal gematria of Kansas City Chiefs. So, back in 2001, we got the Patriot Act in response to 9/11, and then the Patriot dynasty started. Well, then Kobe Bryant dies, and literally exactly 1 week later, the Chiefs dynasty begins. And you have the 172 connection between him and the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's just remarkable.
Yeah. So that's what Derek was just saying, guys.
Did we lose your mic again, Cody? Uh oh.
All right, can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on. In
Uh, yeah, it's more intermittent than my fasting. That was a bad joke, but I'm trying to fill time here. So
Okay, yeah. How about now?
yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Something's going on with the thing. I don't know exactly what, but anyways. So yeah, what Derek was saying was the Mercury birthday of Kobe Bryant was when he died, he was exactly a Mercury birthday, 172 Mercury years old, and that is the gematria of the team that's getting ready to play in the Super Bowl in a few days. That's their basic standard gematria, 172. Again, Kobe Bryant, 172 Mercury years old on the day of his death, right? And now a few days before the Kansas City Chiefs can three-peat, and wasn't Kobe one of the last athletes to three-peat?
Oh, well,
Derek?
that's a good point. Yeah, it would have been, you're talking about like early 2000s.
Yeah, I thought somebody said that one of the last teams to three-peat was the Lakers, wasn't it? I'm not
Yeah,
for
because the
sure, but
Yankees did it and then the Lakers did it. And I'm pretty sure that's the last time in any major sport.
yeah. So again, there's that too. There's that three-peat connection, and Yeah, so in the Mercury thing, let's explain in case you guys are new to the channel, you guys don't understand why we're talking so much about Mercury. Why would Mercury be so perfectly connected to this incident? Well, Mercury is one of the gods that you would think of that has not only a connection to snakes, but also would have a connection to airplanes. Again, Mercury Hermes is the god of transportation, but his symbol, the caduceus, has not only the snakes, but it also has the wings, which could be substituted as a plane. So literally his symbol is a perfect example of what just happened yesterday. Two snakes facing each other, colliding on the wings, right? And think about the movie Snakes on a Plane. They gave us this symbol clearly on their movie logo. They gave us the Mercury symbol right here, right? And they gave us on a plane. Instead of the bird's wings, we get the plane wings. So you guys can see how this is obviously has to be about Mercury. I mean, there should be no doubting it. And it's interesting because if you look it up, the symbolism of the caduceus can mean two serpents representing the duality and the collision or the combining of opposites. Okay, so you have a collision between two things, a helicopter and a plane, and there might be a symbolism here. The helicopter is different from a plane. The helicopter has a spinning. There's differences here, but I don't want to get into that here. But there might be like some symbolism there. But either way, you have this colliding, and that's technically what the Mercury symbol could represent.
And my apologies if
And
you mentioned this, but yesterday, January 29th, was the date of the Chinese New
oh,
Year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at was the snake year, yeah.
Oh, my bad.
And no, but what actually you just reminded me of that I forgot to even mention was yesterday was not only the beginning of the snake year, it was a Wednesday. It was a Mercury day.
Yes.
So you have Mercury on the snake year. The Mercury symbol is a perfect example of the collision of snakes and planes, which is why you have the movie Snakes on a Plane looking like this. But not only, remember, I showed you back here Revelation 12:9. Remember, this happens on 129. In Revelation 12:9, you get the fall of the dragon, that old serpent. Now, look how perfectly this connects. Now, from this crash on 129 to the anniversary of the snakes on the plane with the clear Mercury symbol, is it 201 days? And in Gematria, that old serpent, which they title this in the book of Revelation, equals 201. And what's crazy is in base 8 counting, if you convert your base 10 to base 8 counting, the number 129 converts into 201 in base 8. On top of that, Mercury is, I believe Mercury is that old serpent. Why? Because Mercury is the deceiver. Think about it. Satan, as that serpent in Genesis, deceives Eve by offering knowledge, right? Mercury is the trickster, known for his cunning, wit, and ability to deceive. Okay? So here you have a clear representation. And not only was this 201 days before Snakes on a Plane anniversary, it was connecting perfectly to Mercury, the element, because Mercury, the element, is the element that has the 201 mass. So all of this seems to be perfectly synced with Mercury and the number 201. And we know the number 201 is also the Jesuit number. The Pope, he lives in Suite 201. His name equals 201. The Jesuit founder is 201. I didn't want to throw all that in here. I didn't have time, but the huge 201 connection. And we know how big the last thing with COVID was all tied with that number. And Mercury also is sometimes associated with that same type of stuff, healing. So it just all seems to connect. And then this is where we're going to talk about Trump's Mercury birthday because again, Trump is cutting the cake with the plane on it a few days before this. And again, big shout out to Casey Jones. He put us on this. This is the most forefront example that we can show. When Trump turned 302 Mercury years old, which is just basically 88 days is a Mercury year, so 88 cycles of, so 302 cycles of 88 days, which totals 26,567. Trump turned 302 Mercury years old on the very day that a plane crashed called Flight 302. So again, I always just find that absolutely mind blowing that, you know, how perfect that was. And on top of that, this crash after Trump's inauguration yesterday was 40 days before the anniversary of that Flight 302 that crashed on his 302 Mercury birthday. And what is the gematria of Mercury? 40. 40 days before this anniversary. On top of that, this plane was heading to Ronald Reagan. And what was Ronald Reagan? He was the 40th president. Mercury, 40. Trump, not only was it 40 days before the anniversary of his 302 plane crash riddle, it was 40 days after his 326th Mercury birthday. And this is where it gets wild because me and Derek covered this. We covered the plane crash of Dion Dawkins on Trump's 326th Mercury birthday. Right here, on the day Trump turned 326 Mercury years old, there was a plane crash on Dawkins' property, which equals 326. And then 40 days later, which is the gematria of Mercury, there's a plane crash. And Wikipedia just happens to title the plane crash 2025 Potomac River mid-air collision, which just so happens to equal 326. So do you guys see how perfect that is? 40 days after his 326th Mercury birthday, when Mercury equals 40, and the title of this crash on Wikipedia equals 326. And on the day of his 326th Mercury birthday, you had another crash on Dawkins' property, which equals 326. So, and then this is where it gets crazy because is Trump going to go down in a crash? That's the question here for me. I mean,
Oh, I'm
because,
asking it
or is it
too.
just, yeah, because look at this, guys. I covered this in my past videos last month too when me and Derek covered it. There was one incident last year with Trump and a mechanical issue, and he had to make an emergency landing in Billings, Montana. Think about it. Billings, Bills. The Mercury birthday was, I think it's either symbolizing him going down in a plane crash or the US dollar is going down. The bill, right? But anyway, Trump plane suffered a mechanical issue on August 9th. From the day his plane suffered a mechanical issue to the collision, 173 days. Plane crash equals 173. The 40th prime, like Mercury. And I just told you it was 40 days after his 326th Mercury birthday, going to Ronald Reagan, the 40th president airport. And then it was 40 days before the anniversary of his 302 when he turned 302 Mercury years and Flight 302 crashed. I mean, how perfect is that? All the 40s. And I forgot to even mention that the Super Bowl that I already connected it to was on the 40th day of the year. So, and then big shout out to Casey for this, just to kind of wrap this up a bit. Not only was this, you know, the name of this crash equal 326, like Trump was in his 326 Mercury year, this all connected to Kobe, who died on his Mercury birthday. Okay. And when he died, he was 21 or 2,161 weeks of his life, which is the 326 prime. Okay. And remember, last year we had an event on 326, which was also connected to a type of transportation, a boat hitting a bridge, right? So this 326 is really big, and it's been big with Kobe. It's been big with Trump now, because in his 326 Mercury birthday, we've had a lot of plane crashes. Remember, we had the one on the uh, the one on the Jimmy Carter's death day, and then we had the Dion Dawkins one, and then now we have this one. So, and then one more thing from this midair collision to Trump's next Mercury birthday on and just look what day his next Mercury birthday falls on. 17/3. Plane crash, 173, the 40th prime again. So this 40 is just everywhere. And it happens to be 47 days after this collision, and Trump just became the 47th president. And that will be his 327th Mercury birthday. So, yeah, and then maybe we'll let's see. This is from my last video that we did, Derek, when we talked about Steve Mensch. Remember the president of Tyler Perry Studios?
Yeah.
He died in a plane crash 119 days after Trump's emergency landing. And that was 6 months and 2 days after Air Force One down came out. Air Force One equals 62. 6 months and 2 days later, Trump has an issue, and then 119 days later, a president of Tyler Perry Studios goes down, and he was 62 years old. His last name Mensch equals 62. It was 6 months and 2 days before his birthday. The date numerology of that day was 62. Airplane crash equals 62. The date that Trump's mechanical issue was in the news was 62 date numerology. And what's crazy is 62 is the 43rd composite number, and the number 43 is the other big plane crash number. Plane crash 43. There was 43 weeks between Air Force One down and Steve Mensch's plane crash, and that was in Florida. And the last uh what was it? The last airplane crash into the Potomac was 43 years ago. Oh, that's what I had here. The last airplane crash into the Potomac was Air Florida flight 90, and plane crash equals 43. It was 43 years, 16 days. This reminds me of Yale. Isn't Yale's gematria of 43 and 16? But yeah. So yeah, Florida 43, plane crash 43.
We got Casey Jones backstage.
Oh, Casey Jones backstage. Okay. Kansas equals 43. Thank you for that, Joseph. Casey Jones backstage. See if he can get in here. You there, brother? Can you hear me?
Woo-woo.
Yep.
Got me?
What's up, man?
Hey, I'm out here delivering this mail again.
Well, deliver us a good message.
All right. That's something I mentioned to Cody concerning Kobe. I thought it was interesting that it was a solid lunar synodic and lunar sidereal count from his death. It was 62 synodic lunar months and 67 sidereal lunar months. And
I
67 is the
have that in
total.
here.
Oh, okay. Well, 67 is the total number of passengers combined on the helicopter and airplane.
Yeah, see,
And
look
it,
at this.
go ahead.
Hold on. Let me get that up so I can show them what you're saying. Yeah, so here it is. Go ahead. It's 62 exact lunar months from Kobe's death to this collision. So that's airplane crash. So they can see it there.
And it's 67 sidereal.
Oh yeah, 67 sidereal. Okay,
Yeah,
hold on.
there were 64 people on the plane and 3 people in the helicopter for 67. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then yeah,
it was 67 sidereal. Ah. And there was 67 total deaths. That's what you're saying, yeah. I
Kobe
right.
see.
equals 67, just like Black Mamba and Calabasas, where he died.
And I knew Derek would have a lot of 67s with Kobe because I remember, his death had a lot of 67s that Derek had.
Yeah, that was a big one. He died on a 67 date. Blood sacrifice is 67.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing too is, of course, we know that Kobe died on the first day of the year of the rat. And with the 326s, the moon was at 326 degrees over the ecliptic. It was 326 days before the Pope's 84th birthday. It was 326 days after Shaquille O'Neal's 47th birthday. It was the day after LeBron passing his born, and the Pope, LeBron, and Shaquille O'Neal are born in the year of the rat, which is the opposing sign to Kobe Bryant. Zodiac sign, which is the horse. And so I think it's interesting that we kind of have these parallels with that being the first day of a Chinese New Year And then yesterday being the first day of the Chinese Year of the Snake, you got to keep in mind that the opposing sign for the snake is the pig. It's interesting to know that Derek brought up Sean Duffy. He was born in a pig year, similar to Elon Musk. So I think, I feel like Trump may be out of the water. Maybe Elon Musk is the one to watch out for it. But I will say, Trump is kind of at odds with the FAA right now. Um, I guess some of the news are reporting that he asked a lot of the FAA senior officials, and so it's kind of maybe setting up. Um, if he were to go down in a crash, they already have somebody to blame. And
Yeah,
that's
I
the other
think I
thing
saw.
too, with the FAA connects to Kobe because Kobe Bryant has got the 8/23 birthday, just like the FAA has the 8/23 founding date, and
Yeah,
FAA
I
is a
got that in
F.
here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. My bad. But real quick, FAA is a 611. Uranus is 611, and Uranus came out of retrograde yesterday. And if you go from the day of Kobe Bryant's 81-point gains yesterday, it's the 891st prime number, and in Greek alphabet, Uranus is 891. And
Oh.
one more thing, and I'll let you take over, Cody. Is I think it's real fascinating that Uranus is just one letter off Uraeus. If you replace the N, if you replace the letter N with the letter E, you get a word that's I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it looks like Uraeus. And what that is it's the snake that you see on the headdresses of Egyptian pharaohs. It represents symbolizes the third eye, Kundalini, and all that. So yeah, and I will say this real quick. Pigs are actually known to eat snakes. Anyways, there you go, Cody. I should take over.
What's known to eat snakes? I didn't catch that.
Pigs, they they root
Oh,
in the ground, and if they find a snake, they'll eat it.
really? Huh.
Yeah, so it kind of backs
Interesting.
up the opposition of the pig and the snake.
Yeah, that I did not know that. I guess the pig is a bit more fierce than I thought. I think it's funny because my girlfriend's a Chinese pig and she's behind me right now. The year of the pig. Never mind. The pig year. You're born in the year of the pig. Yeah. Anyways. Anyways, bad joke on live, but yeah, so but yeah, thanks Casey so much for all of your amazing work with Mercury because again, we wouldn't be able to make a lot of these I wouldn't be able to without what you've shared over the past. So and again, the Uraeus thing is also very interesting. I just didn't have time to look into it, but and Derek, I guess we'll let you also get in here now because with I know you got some Mercury stuff as well.
Oh yeah, certainly. And again, thanks to Bobby once more for being the pioneer in mercurial research dating back several years. You know, this Sean Duffy character has a lot of Mercury connections himself. Notice how he was born on October 3rd, which is written 10/3, and it was a date with 103 numerology. And 103 is the ordinal gematria of the planet Mercury. So right off the bat, he has some Mercury numbers. The airport was 1,003 months old for the crash. Talking about Reagan Airport. And the flight was going from Wichita to Washington. And Wichita is 1030, Washington is 130, just like Mercury. Now, what I wanted to tie this into, I feel like we could stop the video here and we'd have more than enough information to show, the relevance of this code in relation to this crash. But what I wanted to do is kind of show how this goes a step further, right? Because truly one of the ultimate mercurial characters of all time is actually NFL legend John Madden. And John Madden was a man who was terrified of airplanes, so much so that he drove around on a bus from city to city to broadcast the next week's game and always talked about his fear of airplanes. Mercury, the god of travelers, but also communication and messaging. And Madden was the man tasked with communicating the rules of the game of football to the audience at home. So Mercury's orbital period, 88 days as you mentioned, this also connects to the magic square of Mercury, which is 8 by 8. And John Madden, his name equals 88. His full name, John Earl Madden, is 888. And the Madden video game franchise started in the year 88. Now, what brought me to all of this is that last night, after I finished my video, for some reason I checked Twitch for the first time in like months. And I saw that on Twitch they were running the semifinals for the NFL Madden tournament. Every year they have a big tournament collecting all of the best players, and it culminates in this playoff series. So last night was the semifinals of this Madden tournament, and it featured a player named John Beast who made the finals. And this name John Beast sums to 888. Just like John Earl Madden. You know, John Beast, John Madden, Revelation written by a guy named John. And there's more to this too, because this guy actually stamped the number 860 on himself. See this, his gamer tag is John Beast 860. Well, the name John Beast equals 86 in ordinal. And 86 is also connected to the Mercury code, because Mercury equals 86. So, when John Madden passed away back in the year 2021, it was, to this day, I haven't seen a better, more solid mercurial riddle. Madden's death fell 103 days before his birthday, matching Mercury in ordinal. And on that date, his following birthday, he would have been 86 years old, which again is Mercury in reverse. Madden's birthday is 410, and Mercury also 41, just like Madden is 41. Finally, in standard gematria, Mercury is 1228, and that is the date that John Madden passed away, 1228 or December 28th. So all of the numbers of Mercury were heavily coded into that guy's death. So how does this all relate to what happened in Washington, D.C. last night? Well, notice how it would have been 1,129 days after Madden's death. We talked about the 129, as that was the date of the crash. Black Hawk Down released 129 days after the 9/11 attacks. And Reagan Airport is a hub for American Airlines, Inc., the plane involved in the crash, 129. And just to cement John Madden's connection to the plane crash riddle, the 9/11 code, John Madden won just one Super Bowl. And he did so coaching one of the NFL's skull and bones teams, right? The Raiders. That Super Bowl was the earliest Super Bowl ever on record. It was the 9th day of the year. And it was also Super Bowl 11. Well, Super Bowl 11 on the 9th day was played 9,011 days before the 9/11 attacks. So it doesn't get much more clear that there's a strong connection here. Now, if you fast forward from the 9/11 attacks to last night's collision, you get 1,220 weeks. And 1,220 is the standard gematria of September 11th. However, this same duration of time is also 23 years and 20 weeks. This represents the digits 232. John Madden 232 standard. Madden 232 trigonal. Airplane 232 primes. A number connected to the dark arts. Satan equals 232. And in the NFL playoffs, the team from Washington, where the crash occurred, defeated another Skull and Bones team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also have the skull and crossbones for their logo. Washington won that game 23-20. And why do I mention this? Well, not only do the numbers line up, but for several years now, I've been explaining how Baker Mayfield, who is the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is a walking Ronald Reagan riddle. Check this out. Baker Mayfield's middle name is Reagan, spelled the same way as the former president, Ronald Reagan, spells his name. Meanwhile, Ronald Reagan's middle name is Wilson. And Wilson is the name on an NFL football that Baker Mayfield takes from center. So this game where Baker Mayfield was knocked out of the playoffs by the Washington Commanders, this game was on January 12th, or 1/12. Both Baker Mayfield and Baker Reagan Mayfield sum to 112. This matches Ronald Reagan's birthplace, Tampico, 112. And if you include the end date, Ronald Reagan was exactly 1,120 months old when he died, matching Skull and Bones' nickname, the Brotherhood of Death, 112. So this also brings us to the number 33. Because with a loss in the playoffs, the Buccaneers were held to a total of 330 wins in franchise history. The American Airlines flight was approaching runway 33. And again, Kennedy equals 33. Runway 33 is the famous landing strip for the space shuttles at Kennedy Space Center. And just a reminder to anyone who dropped in partway through the video, RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearing took place on the same day as the crash. The crash was 33 days after the anniversary of Black Hawk Down, its premiere, which, by the way, was on 12/28, matching that Mercury date, the same date John Madden died. Black Hawk Helicopter has the 330 in reverse. And this crash was 3 years and 33 days after the death of John Madden. Both American Airlines and Ronald Reagan sum to 333. The airport in D.C. was renamed Reagan National Airport 333 lunar phases before the crash. The crash was also 30 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days after the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones, a very significant occultic symbol in Georgia in the path of the 2017 eclipse. And eclipse equals 33. Funny I put a picture of the World Trade Center bombing when I meant to put the Guidestones. But Kodi earlier mentioned on this stream that this is connected to Revelation 12:9. And I just wanted to show you something in regards to that. Just like the date of the crash, 129. But check out the reverse gematria of this Bible verse. Revelation 12:9 has gematria of 2260. Well, 226 in the same cipher is the value of airplane crash. 226. The plane was coming from Wichita, Kansas, which equals 2206. Wichita, 226 with primes. Robert Francis Kennedy, 226 in the alphabetic order. But look at this. United States Department of Transportation, whose boss was on his first day on the job, sums to 2026 and 226. So with all of these 226s, I thought, wow, there's got to be a connection to the next total solar eclipse, which happens in the year 2026. Well, sure enough, this crash was 560 days before the eclipse. 5/6, the 5th of June, is the date that Ronald Reagan died. And Ronald Reagan has matching 56 Gematria with plane crash and Washington, D.C. This also connects to the new lunation number. The 56th prime number is 263. And when John Madden died, it was 263 days after his own birthday. Both Order of the Skull and Bones and Skull and Crossbones. Each of these phrases equals 263. And on the date of the plane crash, it was the first day of Brown Lunation 1263. So the last three digits in the new moon number, 263, the 56th prime number. The flight was coming from Wichita, Kansas, which equals 1262. That's the lunation number we just ended, lunation 1262.
Well, that makes sense because that was the lunation we were leaving, and that's where the plane was leaving from.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Good way of looking at it. There's some more connections with the moon, particularly the magic square of the moon, which sums to 3321. And look at the gematria of U.S. Department of Transportation. It equals 3321 and 1233, the same three digits in reverse. So there's some more cool connections, including the number 666. But the last thing I share, I know we're coming up on an hour on this stream here, is this remarkable 1123 connection. Now, occasionally I like to pat myself on the back a little bit, and a lot of this has to do with Formula One last year. So in November, when I did my first posts on Sean Duffy becoming the new secretary, this was just a couple of days before the Grand Prix in Las Vegas in the United States. And just scanning through my post here, I did a lot of connections to this race. Well, the Las Vegas Grand Prix was held on 11/23, and it was the 1123rd Grand Prix in history. And this was the number that led me to the winner of the race, George Russell. And George Russell, the Formula One driver, he shares a name with the founder of Skull and Bones, William Huntington Russell. This driver, George William Russell, started his career with Williams. So anyway, the number 1123 also found in Transportation Secretary 1123. And just check this out. The plane crash was 11 months and 23 days after Ronald Reagan's birthday at Ronald Reagan Airport. The United States Department of Transportation, its age ended in 1123, the last four digits. The crash was 23 years, 11 days after the release of Black Hawk Down. And another big connection with John Madden here is the fact that John Madden died on the exact same day as former Senator Harry Reid. Both of these guys died on December 28th of 2021. Well, just 2 weeks before they died, the airport in Las Vegas was renamed to Harry Reid International Airport. So Las Vegas, the site of that 1123rd Grand Prix, Las Vegas also where Madden's old team, the Raiders, now play their football. And Harry Reid Airport was renamed 23 years, 10 months, and 10 days after Reagan Airport was renamed. So a little bit off the deep end here at the end, but there's definitely something to this. And again, George Russell was a 25-1 pick to win this race. And I didn't put all my money on Russell when the odds were that good. But I mean, you see how this all connects to the greater world of sports, particularly global sports like Formula One, and it's just mind blowing. But I'm about to lose my voice, so I'm gonna wrap up my part of the video there.
Yeah, and there's a few things I noticed as you were talking there. Well, first of all, 1123 is also like I always think of the Fibonacci sequence when I see that, the 1123. But another thing with going back to the Kennedy thing, I'm always reminded about the John F. Kennedy Jr. plane crash,
Yep.
and it is quite interesting that from that crash, the JFK Jr. crash to the crash yesterday was actually it was 6 months and 14 days after that anniversary, which is Trump's birthday. And I had shown that when the other plane crash happened, it was all aligned with which one was that I showed? I can't remember, but there was a huge connection with Trump and John F. Kennedy Jr.'s plane crash.
I don't know. I ran some numbers myself, and what I did notice is the 1332 in the number of weeks between these crashes. And 1332 is the first multiple of the number of the beast, which is, of course, found in the Gematria of Kennedy. Kennedy also with the 666. Kodi, we did lose you there for a little bit. Once more.
Oh yeah, you said exactly what I was gonna say about the 1332. So,
Oh, perfect.
um, but yeah, and then yeah, on the 666 we didn't really talk about Joseph. If you guys didn't check Joseph Aquaviva's video earlier, I don't know if you're still in here, Joseph. Um, but he talked a lot more about the 666. Of course, right now, recently we've had lots of 666 stuff going on, and it's just really been the moon landing is obviously in its 666 month, and then we had the thing with the Stargate project, which was all connected with the 666, and now we have Kobe, who was died in a helicopter crash, which equals helicopter equals 666. And Kobe was the guy who scored 81 points in his 666 game. So we couldn't forget to talk about the 666, I guess is what I was getting at.
Yeah, I just happened to complete a big mega post a couple days ago. It's an absolutely mammoth post, and it basically details all of the 666 connections with Kobe, or at least all that I could tolerate to put into one post. And it's truly remarkable how, like, his entire career, his birthday, the date he died, the teams that drafted him, the team he played for, it's all 666, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think yeah, I mean also, I don't know, Joseph is still in the chat, but I told you this earlier, Derek, but I thought this was wild. Let me take my screen back here real fast.
Sure.
So Joseph, you remember we were covering the also I want to give a big shout out to the Illusion. He's in the chat. He said he did a video earlier. So guys, make sure you guys go check out all the other decoders as well. Um but so Joseph, we were talking about the Stargate project and how the ciphers of the Stargate project added up to 666. And Trump just obviously just released the Stargate project. And Trump, he had an airplane cake, right? So let's go back to that slide. Can you guys see my screen? Oh no, you can't. All right, so there's my screen. We're gonna go back, and again, for those of you who are just catching up, remember Trump just released the Stargate project, and that was a few days before this. Well, and remember, just to show you guys again, Trump had the airplane cake, right? Here's his airplane cake. So I just decided to type in Trump airplane cake. Well, let's see what it equals. Joseph, do you know what those 4 values are? Like Trump airplane cake, 184, 275. What was the other? 76 and 104. It's a perfect match to hold on, let me type it in. The Stargate project. Oh my goodness, what am I doing here? I'm all over the place.
Huh.
Hold on. It's hard to type even more now because this mic is in my way. So hold on. But yeah, it's almost a perfect match to the Stargate project. In fact, it's only one cipher off. But I mean, come on, what's the chance Trump has an airplane cake one day before he releases the Stargate project, and the Trump airplane cake is nearly a full cipher match to it doesn't sum to 666 though because it doesn't have that 211 in there, but
Well, 666 equals 275 and
right,
211.
yeah. Right. So, yeah, that's another thing to mention too is that this all connects to the 666, 666.
You can also type out a number and hit Alt Enter, and it will spell out the number for you.
Oh, I was trying to remember how to do that. Alt Enter.
Yeah, so if you just type out 666 and then Alt Enter, I believe. Yeah, there you go.
Ah, nice. Okay. I'm glad I know how to do that now. Because I was looking for it in the commands like last week to do it, but I couldn't. I just didn't find it, I guess. But now I know, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, like, and the fact that his wife was wearing like, what do you think, Derek? Is that like as close as you get to?
Well, now that you mention it, it does seem, especially with the black part hanging over the arm, like the head, I do see a snake there.
Oh, I don't know, like just the curviness of it and the way that she, and this was actually tied to the Ohio. Oh,
We're going to have to pitch in and get you a new microphone again.
is it going out again, man? I don't know what's going on with this thing, man. It hasn't done it like it hasn't done this before. It started doing it, but I don't know why it would be doing it now, and I don't get it.
It is
But
weird.
yeah, did you hear what I said at all, or was I just talking to myself?
A little bit about the snake. I don't really remember.
Well, okay, I was gonna do a video for you guys about the Great Serpent Mound, which is located in my neck of the woods, Ohio, and yeah, so there's a big. See if I can find an actual picture of it. Yeah, I guess I want to find an actual picture, but hold on. But I was gonna do a video. What I'm trying to get at is I was gonna do a video on this in connection to the dress um that his wife was wearing at the inauguration, and then I didn't get time to do it, but because actually his wife Melania, her name means black, and I just already connected all this stuff with Black Hawk, but Kobe was the black mamba, the black snake, and she was wearing a black snake. I mean that's also I didn't even make that connection. She's wearing the black snake there, a black snake. So there you go, black mamba. She's the mom, mamba. Yeah. So there's a lot of things to maybe connect there. But yeah, so she's actually from a town in Slovenia that has a river that snakes through it. And if you look at pictures of her town she's from, not far from where I'm at now, actually. I had to drive through Slovenia to get to where I'm at now. But yeah, she has a river that snakes through. And where did this plane fall in? It fell into a river, and rivers are often connected with snakes because they often wind like snakes. So everything here seems to connect to the snake, and possibly that also connects everything to Mercury. And then you know, what Bobby was talking about earlier was the connection with the Uraeus, which there's so many deities in ancient Egypt that have this snake symbolism. So I just got to go through and look at more. But yeah, the Great Serpent Mount definitely. Can't forget. I think that might equal the same. Hmm. I guess I was thinking wrong. Oh, Serpent Mound equals 56 in that cipher. It's interesting. But yeah, that's just an addition I wanted to add. And I don't know, is there anything else you specifically want to add, Derek, or is your voice tired?
Yeah, that's about all the energy I got today, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I was gonna give Casey, are you still there? I mean, Derek, you can hang around or you can jump off, or I want to give Casey a chance to add some stuff also.
Yeah, I'm still here, man.
All right. Is there
Um,
anything that you
yeah.
want us to add still?
I think with the black stuff, you got to keep in mind that yesterday was a new moon, and I kind of you associate that with darkness,
Uh huh. Yeah. I didn't even
and
think about that.
back
Yesterday was the new moon, huh?
yeah. Well, I mean, it only makes sense because the Chinese New Year it begins with the new moon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um, and the other thing is, I'm gonna go back to 326, 327. Um, you know, we know how important 326 was to Kodi, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but when his helicopter crashed, the moon's at 326 degrees over the ecliptic, right?
Uh
So
Playing some Call of Duty over there?
I
What's
don't
going
just
on?
huh.
I had to crank my truck up, move it a little bit. I'm in the way, in somebody's way.
He's playing
But
Mercury.
yeah. Oh, speaking of that, I got a second job at FedEx, so I'm a double courier, double messenger there. But yeah, with the 326, hopefully I can remember this. Of course, the Pentagrammaton, the five-letter Hebrew word for Jesus is 326, and the moon when Kobe Bryant's helicopter crashes at 326 degrees of the ecliptic, and then I mentioned earlier that we're on a solid sidereal count from his death, 67 sidereal phases. That's when the moon comes back around to the same position relative to the stars, which is the definition of a sidereal. And so if you throw a chart to the time of crash, it's at 327 degrees of the ecliptic, less than 1 degree away from where it was when Kobe died.
Huh.
And currently Trump's 326 Mercury years old, and as Cody's mentioned, he's coming up on 327, March 17th, right? St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah, it's Sean Patrick Duffy. St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then the other thing to keep in mind is that I was looking at the 28th because another reason I was looking at it is because JFK, he turned 39,326 days old that day. So you go to the 29th, he's 39,327 days old yesterday. Um, Also, Cody pointed out something pretty uh, fascinating. I thought is if you cast a chart again, the same chart for yesterday's crash, the minutes and seconds for Venus are 53:42, just like the flight method. Did you catch that?
It dipped out briefly,
Maybe did I dip out?
just for a few seconds.
Oh, okay, okay. Cody mentioned that if you look at the astrology chart for the plane crash yesterday, the minutes and seconds for the degree that Venus was at was 53 minutes, 42 seconds. That 53:42.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Yeah, I sent you a screenshot of that or image of that in the Discord.
Cause that I thought that was pretty wild. Derek, I thought I shared that with you too, didn't I?
Sorry, which one?
Uh, that when the thing happened, when the collision happened, the Venus was at the exact flight number.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised that didn't come up. Yeah, it was at 53 degrees and 42 minutes, I think.
Hold on a second. Let me get this. I can get the image just a second so that people can see what we're talking about. Let me get this image. All right, guys. So this is. I don't know if I can make it big enough. Hold on. Let me just duplicate it. Yeah, so you guys can see what he's talking about here. I don't know if you guys in the chat are even paying attention at this point, but you guys can see that this crash,
And
flight.
Kodi, remember that it was flight 2216 that went down the same day Jimmy Carter died, and yesterday Kamala Harris, she turned 22,016 days old, right? So that's
Right, right.
another tie into Venus there.
Guys, my mic is out so much. I keep trying to say something, but it's going in and out so much. Anyways, um, you guys can see here. Can you guys?
Well, it's a little small, but we can make it out. Yeah, Venus was in Pisces, and there it says at the time of the crash, 53 degrees 42 minutes, and that is the same exact four digits in the same order as the flight number that went down, 5342 for American Airlines.
Yeah, 5342 flight, and then here is Venus at 5342. I mean, come on. I don't know if the people in the chat are comprehending that, but that's pretty wild. And remember, Venus was at a pretty specific location during 9/11 too. So yeah, something up with. Actually, also I had did a measurement earlier, and something had come out to exactly 30 Venus years to this crash yesterday. I just don't remember what it was. So there's definitely a Venus riddle here as well, as always. But and then what, Derek? Did you hear what he was saying about Kamala?
Yeah, so she must have been 22,160 days old. I noticed that when you write out Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, the airport's official name, it sums to 2215. Just one
Ah,
short of 2216, but there it is.
yeah, but she was she was 22,016
Wow.
days old on this thing. And what was the last crash, guys? I want to see some chat participation. What was the last airplane number that crashed in Korea last month? Let me see if the chat's still alive here. Kamala was 2216 days old yesterday. I mean, that answers the question for you guys, but anyways, like that is pretty wild. So Kamala is still
And too that 22 V is the 22nd letter, P is the 16th letter, so you have a VP. She was the vice president.
Huh.
I always
right.
think that's important to point out.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I also find it funny she was kind of pi. She has the pi digits in her age yesterday as well. 3145. Those are the first, 31415. You still have that in there. So that may be pointing again to Pi Day. I did have a slide about Pi Day actually. Um oh, another interesting thing with Casey. you're oh, no, maybe this wasn't the one I was thinking of. Anyway, it was 62 days from the last big crash in the United States that they listed was in 2001, and it was November 12th. That was 62 days after 9/11, which is the Gematria of airplane crash.
Nice.
So, and then that 62, that was how many lunar phases Kobe after his death till yesterday. And again, I emphasize that 62 with the president of Tyler Perry Studios, Steve Mensch, perfectly connected to Trump. And yeah, just watch out for Trump. I mean, this St. Patrick's Day is super interesting now. Think about it. We have Patrick Mahomes and we have Patrick Duffy. And now the next Mercury birthday for Trump points to St. Patrick's Day. So that seems to be our next watch date. I mean, that's around. I mean, we're already watching the Pi Day eclipse. So I mean, maybe that's just well, heck, that's interesting because that would be 3 days after the Pi eclipse, just like the plane crash yesterday was 3 days after Kobe Bryant's death. So that could be interesting. And don't forget that day, March 17th, is the plane crash day because if you write that internationally, it's 173, like plane crash. So
Well, hey Cody, I'm coming up on 90 minutes here, so I'm gonna close my stream out, especially because it's like 55 degrees in Milwaukee in January, so I feel like getting outside a little bit.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah, go ahead,
getting
man.
some fresh air and feeling a little better.
Yeah, I hope you feel better and thanks for coming on once again and sharing everything and appreciate having you on and again hope you feel better.
Yeah, I think another day or two I'll be back to normal. Um, Great stuff on your end as well. I think with all this plane crash stuff that came up, especially since it all started basically on a date we predicted, it's been pretty remarkable. So yeah, great hour again, and we'll do it again soon.
Yep, we'll see you soon. Take care.
All right, thanks everybody. Until next time, we'll talk to you all later. Peace, love, God bless.
And I don't know, I'm feeling a bit I see the illusion is in the chat, so maybe it's been a while since me and him